Next time I was in this room, I was becoming a professor here. And they were saying to me, hey, you know, this is going to be great. And it was cool. It was good.
I just turned on that one.
Yeah, you been?
Doing well. How's it going?
Good, good.
I'm a student now myself.
Hey, awesome. Did you rent out the graduated in May. So it's all wrapping up now.
Then what? Will you do that?
That's the scariest question you could ask.
No answer to that yet?
I'm applying for jobs, trying to find something, trying to come up with something like that.
Anything in particular you're interested in?
I've applied to some manufacturing groups in
Okay.
the Arden area, trying to do like sustainability training for them and stuff.
Cool, man. Cool. Well, I've been now about a year into my doctoral program.
Nice.
I said, I don't know, I was talking about that when I was teaching here, and then I went ahead and did it.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah, I think I can wrap it up next year. So I'm just about done with all my coursework, which is a hoot, because I'm like, hey, this quiz I have to take, that sucks. Oh yeah, now they're all student stuff. It's
Next time I run into you, I'll be like, Dr. Hayes. I used to call him that all semester long, and he'd be like, no.
Not yet, dude. Not yet.
That's awesome.
Hi guys. Now that I have your attention, we want to get started because this is going to be, I feel like, a very full hour. So I don't want to waste any time. This is Seeds of Change, the club. Thank you so much for the new people coming. Really exciting. It grows every week. And we did something special today. We have a little presentation it was to help us, first of all, organize our thoughts and really condense and be concise about what we feel like the best way to present these things is. And for you guys is to tell us how we're presenting it wrong and how we can do it better and what you don't understand and what you need clarified. And just if you see this being aligned and possible in the world. So first I want to start off with this video. Which is a project that's going on right now. And the big question is here is what if we could support these types of projects on a massive scale worldwide? Oh, it doesn't do that. Okay. All right, thank you for your patience. We thought that hyperlink would be working, and it's not. So here we go. So what would be required to support a type of mission such as that guy had? Well, we think to support things like that, unlimited access to capital is one option. So here's what happened. Is that the guy who started, or that owns Virgin Mobile, created a sort of competition where people with different ideas, entrepreneuric businesses, could submit their proposal, and there was about 9,000 of them. And then this idea for these waste plastic being turned into roads got into 6th place at that, and then they went to a final round against 160 other companies, and then he won. And now it's being funded, and this is happening worldwide. Lydia.
Oh yeah, so I just want to like briefly explain the torus. It'll be really quick. It's just to give people an idea who don't know. It's a geometrical shape, and it is sort of, we see this and we have found this sort of form, this geometric form, as energy forces. It's like one of the most common sort of energy forces that transmits and moves energy around. So like the force around the sun, the gravitational force of the earth is all in this form. And we see it in the environment all over the place because it's the most balanced and sustainable way to transmit energy. And so that is sort of becoming like an inspiration to this project and how it's going to be structured.
As we said at the beginning, how to support these efforts to accelerate world-changing efforts is the focus of this talk. And we started that by just showing that how much hurdle we have somebody that wants to change the world, wants to bring something new and make it a profitable thing, has to go through in order to receive some sort of capital, or startup capital to start this. So what we're going to address here, if you see in the center, there's the pod, which is the same thing that we're showing here. And this is what the concept is. The concept is called Awareness Corporation, and it's a way of facilitating, opening up capital to people to support world-changing initiatives, even from small to big, on a massive scale throughout the world. Because we feel that we need to shift our reliance from bureaucratic institutions back into the people. Because bureaucratic institutions, their system is based on profit, and it's a linear system on a finite planet, and we cannot run a linear system on a finite planet indefinitely. So this what I'm about to show is about recirculation of capital. If you go 2 steps forwards, 2 slides there. Well, in here, basically, if a new person, so what we're, through this route, what we're trying to do is prove a hypothesis, this hypothesis. And this hypothesis relies on, if you have an idea to change the world, if you have something that you think is economically sustainable, it's something that you enjoy doing, and it's something that can be part of the whole, how to accelerate it. So we create a non-for-profit credit union, a non-for-profit, sort of like, if you consider crowdfunding institutions, crowdfundings, websites right now, they are the alternative system in the world to address this, is the alternate structure to governments and things like that, because basically they allow, the people is coming together and they support ideas and endeavors that actually align with what people feel needs to be done, and it's actually going directly, so it's actually allocating resources directly into that. But how do we make it more unified, and how to make this process and the recirculation of capital more efficient? If you want, just like now, let's talk about Muhammad Yunus.
We were very inspired by Muhammad Yunus. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. I'm not sure what year, but he's done really amazing things. So we're going to show 3 little bits of videos to explain a little bit more about that.
Why were so many people living in so much misery? He quickly realized that unemployment was not the problem. In fact, most of the people living in poverty in Bangladesh were working. They worked full-time at back-breaking jobs. The real problem was wages. Muhammad Yunus came to a profound conclusion about poverty.
What creates poverty? What created this situation that human being has to be brought into this kind of situation where they have to beg for existence? Is this the fault of the person? Repeatedly I come to the same conclusion. There is nothing wrong with the people. Poverty is not created by the poor people. Poverty is created by the system that we have built, the concepts that we have created. That's what created poverty.
As Professor Yunus studied the problem, he began to focus more and more on the issue of credit. Professor Yunus reinvented banking and got rid of as many traditional requirements as he could. He specifically designed his bank to work as well as possible with the poor, whatever it took. If a requirement blocked out the poor, he simply got rid of it. No collateral, no credit checks, not even a written contract. It was revolutionary. The system is based entirely on trust, and the amazing thing about it is that it works. According to bank officials, 97% of the loans given out to the poor are paid back in full, a payback rate that has confounded the expectations of conventional bankers. Over the years, the bank has given out more than $13 billion in loans to over 8.4 million borrowers.
Those are some really important statistics that we find for people who are very business-minded and economically driven. Those are concrete facts of this can work. Social business is not, just a concept up in space. It's working every day in Bangladesh and in other places as well. Later on in this video, it talks about how there's been more social banks, just like the Greenman Bank, that have started in other countries on similar paths to this. And here is Yunus himself talking, I think, on an American.
We talk about reforming capitalism as opposed to replacing capitalism. Your prescription is a social business. Explain what that is and how it differs from, say, a state-owned enterprise where profit is not the ultimate goal.
I highlight the point that the present capitalist system is a machine which pumps up all the money, all the wealth to the top. So it continuously pumping it out. So few people is owning more and more wealth. 8 people in the whole world owning more wealth than the bottom 50% of the people. So we need to do something about it because it becomes speedier and speedier. It's not just a slow motion concentration, it's a very fast moving concentration right now. So unless we do that, it will be a ticking time bomb. It will create a lot of social unrest, political unrest, and lots of social upheavals coming out of it. So one way I was saying that maybe we should change the whole idea, hit the basic premises of the capitalist system. Basic premises, all human beings are driven by self-interest. So that gives the wrong impression. Human beings is not about selfishness. Human beings are all about selfishness and selflessness. So what I'm saying, that as we create business on selfishness basis, also we can create business to solve problem and on selfless basis.
Now, you write in your book that the freedom from profit pressures and from the demands of profit-seeking investors helps make social businesses viable, even in circumstances where current capitalist markets fail, where the rate of return is very high. It is free from the need to constantly attract new streams of donor funding. My question here is, how is this different from, say, a state-owned enterprise in China, which can pursue social ends, not make a huge amount of money, not have to worry about closing down? Isn't this a very old idea then?
You can say called like you're mixing social and profit. What I'm doing is taking the extreme, not get involved with profit at all. When you delink from the profit idea, your eyes see different things. Different way of doing things. You are concentrating on all the solving problems. That's what we are calling social business. A non-dividend company to solve human problems. You can start solving problems of healthcare, you can start solving problems of poverty, problems of housing, you name it, unemployment, all kinds of things possible. And we have been creating those businesses, and many big companies are supporting us, getting involved with it themselves, like Danone, like Uniqlo, like Intel corporations, and so on. We're urging to every single company, big, small, medium, doesn't matter, create a social business on the side.
Right.
You do that CSR, you do that, all kinds of things, which is good. But this is better, because it's exclusively doing, you bring all your creativity and you see things, opportunities which you never saw with the eyes, with the dollar signs. So that's what we are saying, that have a new glass where you see social opportunities to help people to solve their problems.
Critique. So we talk about
Here's what he did, basically. He started with $27. He lended especially to women, poor women in Bangladesh. He reiterated that process and he created a social bank. And then here's the keyword, is the recirculation of capital. He would provide small loans to people to start their own things. And then as they repaid back, they continued to reiterating and recirculating the capital. And this helped millions, as we saw in the video. But what we're doing, basically, is where we're coming together, we're generating this group. It's called Seeds of Change. We proved this hypothesis, which is called Awareness Corporation. And we prove a system which is based on recirculation of capital. We create an organism to allow access to unlimited capital. And that's how we transform the world. So this is our core belief, is that we believe that the most immediate effective action to address the world's greatest challenge has to be unifying, economically sustainable, and something that you enjoy doing. Move on forward. And the reason is that there is no unifying, self-empowered network of people that sees the problems of our current economic system and is doing something about it. Go back. Individually, we will never be able to shift our dependence for bureaucratic institutions, and if we don't, our current flawed economic system will destroy our planet. And again, this is because we cannot run a linear system, a profit-oriented system, indefinitely on a finite planet. The assumptions and what we're currently seeing and we're trying to address is that economic motivation and security are the main driven factors of this time and age. Current capitalistic system is mainly supported by banks and corporations. And 51 out of 100 largest economies are corporations. So what would it take? The whole idea is to shift our mentality from our selfish view of us first, and shift our mentality to put the world first. And here is the key. Because right now our current economic system is based on the survival of the fittest. It's based on yes, you prove your mettle, basically that's good. It creates new things. It creates competitive, which correlates to quality, and there's competition. That's the reason why basically we have such a wonderful Apple devices and things like that. It's all because of that. But the problem is that we have limited resources, and as we start stretching out, creating our own peaks and moving in our own direction, we're going to run out of the resources, and that's not sustainable. So our key is, in order to create allocation, we need to shift that mentality and to start thinking globally, and that's how we unify and we come together. One more. So this is the basic structure of what we are to create. So the point is that if in the center, as you can see in the center, it says Awareness Corp, which is an allocating, a crowdfunding-like structure that basically runs on direct democracy. It's that if you imagine, if we create a non-for-profit credit union based on the internet, without bureaucracy, nobody directed, just every member of that organization is the one that has the voting power to decide what needs to be created first. They will, and as new enterprises are being created, the profit of those enterprises that are being generated will recirculate back to create more profit. So how is that going to work? Basically, if you see, if this is the center, the empty center of this whole concept. This is Awareness Corp. Let's start from the point where, if you imagine a snowball effect, when you have a little fat snowball and you roll it, right? It has to start small. So let's say right now, let's assume that we have a certain amount of money to allocate into something. Let's say through crowdfunding ourselves or through activism, we generate a certain startup capital. With this startup capital, we created this non-for-profit organization, this credit union that is based on a crowdfunding-like structure. And there is, since this is, this little form right here, we call it a cell. A cell is any individual that has a vision, that has an idea of a business or something that is going to be sustainable and is something that is going to help the world. Something small can be either a person that focuses on recyclable resources or bringing social change by employing homeless people or things like that. So this person, I have an idea. He posted on our site this site, this crowdfunding site, like crowdfunding site because it's crowdfunding to the next level. He comes to here and he posted it. And there is already members, other cells that are already there. And then he comes and he says, you know what, I have this idea, he posted there, he has this idea, and I need, let's say, $10,000. He applies for funding. Then the other member, the other cells of this organism, this is an organism. I mean, what I'm going to explain is an organism, but each cell, they're going to vote. They're going to have an initial vote and say, I like your idea. And he votes, electronically. He says he votes he. And then this person is funded. He gets the $10,000. Now, the requirements for this is that 51% of your profit, first of all, 51% of ownership belongs to the organism, to this whole organism. In order to access this organism, 51% ownership, it has to be part of the organism. So that means that you cannot sell it, no, you can opt out. It's a conglomerate approach. So you cannot opt out, you cannot do anything about sell it, but you have absolute autonomy and absolute decision-making power towards your own business. You run your business and either you take it and successfully develop it, or you run it down to the ground. There is no pressure, you get an injection of capital or energy, and it goes towards this cell. So 51% ownership, part of the organism. And 51% of your revenues have to recirculate back into the pot. That's how you repay unlimited. So throughout your existence of your cell, this recirculation will happen. Every time there is recirculation, all of these cells creating that, there will be enough accumulation of capital to generate another cell. As another cell is created, it will start recirculating that capital. And this is a viral growth. This is a fractal. It's based on the structure of the fractals. So what this creates is that these are small changes that people are making through sustainable actions to change the situation of their immediate society, their immediate city or community or something, or even like we saw at the beginning, the how to pave roads or something like that could change completely the world. As this grows, this can grow exponentially. And this principle can be expanded and applied anywhere in the world. As we prove it, that's why the whole mission of the Seeds of Change is to prove this system, is to prove that this is possible. And the reason why the emphasis on the 51% ownership is that it unifies people. It changes their mentality. So in order for you, as it grows and it becomes, as the snowball starts rolling and it becomes so big, that people start seeing, oh, these people are doing what they like to do. They are helping the community and they're being successful. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of that and I want to jump in. What do I need to do? Well, you need to change your mentality. You need to start thinking about the world and start thinking only about yourself, selfishness. You need to start shifting your mentality from private property to the property of the world and the good for the world. As this starts running and starts becoming big and big, there will be enough capital and allocation to allocate into even things that are not necessarily profitable, even things like art, activism, even things that health, public health, and things like that. And then by doing this, we're actually shifting our reliance on bureaucratic institutions and shifting that mentality of being part of a corporation for security and for, oh yeah, I like to work for this big corporate because it's going to be, my future is set for that. So by doing that, we start really, shifting our reliance on those systems and really start creating a new system that is completely run by direct democracy, because people themselves, each one of the cells, will be have the power to, vote for what is it that needs to be created and how the order that is going to be. With that being said, I guess this is now a discussion. Now questions.
So how
how many votes does an idea need to be funded, to be approved? Like, what's the?
I would say that majorities. I mean, if there's 51 votes, if 100 cells, maybe 51 votes. Yeah, I would
Okay,
say
but-
some sort of majority.
What if there's only like, at the beginning, when you still just have a few cells, like, what if like 2 people vote yes, 1 cell votes no?
That's a good question.
Just because once this is large scale, I can see how this would be
Yes.
much more. But at the beginning, how do you kind of make sure that this doesn't go off in a direction you don't want?
So that's part of the reason that we're like in seeds of change right now, that we can't start Awareness Corporation at this moment, because the beginning is the most crucial time for deciding these things, and like the beginning of deciding where the first seed money will be invested is very important, because the first few cells actually do need to be profitable to start the conglomerate. So that will be something that will be carefully considered, I feel like, by all like the core members involved in Awareness Corporation, and it will have to be like a group decision. There is no one leader that gets like a say. If some people say yes and some people say no, it can't be one person be like, okay, well I think this and we're gonna do it. It's not like that. Like we all have to come to a complete consensus of what we think will be helpful for the world. The person who's coming to us, they also have to get the concept very fully. Like, even if they have a really great idea, if they are not like fully aligned with this concept of shifting their mentality to put the good of the world over their individualistic gain, there has to be a trust, between the people that are coming into this and the core beliefs and ideas. Like they have to be fully aligned. So I think in the beginning will be the most, like I said, the most crucial time for that, and that's why we want you guys here. Because how do we figure that out? Do you have any ideas?
Not yet. Think about it. Because like you said, so somebody would have to make sure that the members who are joining their values are aligned. So in a sense, there will be kind of leaders, even if it's just at the beginning, to make sure that it really goes where you want it to go.
I would say the founders are there to, like, more than anything, I guess, educate the people about what they're getting themselves into. Because even if we decide to loan to a person and it ends up not working out, like they take the money and the business still kind of flops, or they become uninterested and they just kind of let it go and we never get that investment back, we're never going to come after them and try to punish them and get that money back and say, like, you have to repay us. Like, that's not going to happen. So the beginning ones, ideally, yes, like they would be able to contribute back into the pot.
The beginning, and that's one of the things. I mean, at the beginning, because you need to pack the ball and to really make it to be able to let it roll. That's why we wanted to focus on the bigger scale, because the beginning part is a complete other. It's like it's what we are here to find out. That's why we have this think tank. That's why all of these things are gonna be researched. But the concept itself, the bigger concept itself of how to recirculate capital is the key. How to really, what is it that it takes for a person to be part of this organism, and how the contribution and how the recirculation of capital will happen. Yes.
Or just thoughts on the videos or anything, like anything you guys want to talk about or bring up or say that you liked or say that you didn't understand or anything, I guess.
I always have comments if you'd like them. So some of you guys know me, some don't. I taught here for a year. I taught at WCU entrepreneurship. I taught marketing here, which was interesting because I never taught marketing before. I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I started off my kitchen table, a IT software company in healthcare, and grew that to a multi-million-dollar business, and then we sold that about 10 years ago, which is what gives me the freedom. It's interesting because you talk profit motive. I'm going, so capitalism provided the freedom for me to then go out and do other things. And my other thing now is to teach and kind of give back. So, but I'm a student now too, so anyway, that's a whole other story. It's a cool model. My first thought is, this is really interesting. I was writing down funding, crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, how does it relate now? And you started talking about some of those things. The idea to start a company that can solve problems, but also solve problems in society, also allow individuals to do well. There's not, in my opinion, that's a really great model. For me, capitalism isn't about a linear thing. It's about socially responsible companies that form, that do well, and help others. Okay, so New Belgium Brewery is a good example of that. If you go look at what they do, and we've gone over for classes over there, they practice what they preach in terms of the environment and doing things the right way, but they do make money as well. This model, so a couple of things. I thought immediately about a group called Quirky.com. Quirky.com does not exist anymore, but you can go look them up. They were in business to help people that had ideas, commercializable ideas, promote those ideas, and bring them to market. And groups, the collective, got together every week. This was in New York. You could virtually get together or hang out with them and drink a beer. And they voted on ideas. What are the ideas that would rise to the surface that they wanted to fund? And they had to, if you got funded by Quirky, you gave Quirky X amount of money. I don't know what the percentages were. And they would help you along the path. They would do everything for you if you just had the idea. And a lot of those products ended up in Target, Walmart. I saw some in Walmart. And then they had a lot of investor issues, and they went belly up a couple of years ago. But that idea of the collective voting on an idea is a pretty cool thing. Helping others is a great thing. The banks that you mentioned, there are a few others, just like the gentleman that you showed the video for. Those have been really successful. They had people that had to do something, had to take control of their own destiny, or they were going to be forced labor basically for the rest of their lives. If you look at statistics of people that are in dire need, those are individuals that generally take internal, they've got a strong internal locus of control. They decide they need change, and here was a person to help them. And it was a morality issue in terms of the couple bucks that they got. Some of them give $20, $30, some give a couple hundred, but that's where you get the 97% of people returning that money because they were so strongly into, you've helped me get out of my position. I'm now going to go do something different. I'm going to get back with this money. Thank you. There's a ton of statistics about seed funding, entrepreneurship in non-first world economies where it works really well, and where you take an economy like the US and try to do that, it fails because of that personal motivation or personal, I call it greed. I'm in it for myself, so I'm going to apply to this, and I want $10,000 because I want to go take a trip. Go look at crowdfunding websites sometime, and those people get money, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to go to Hawaii. I've never been there before. I need $10,000. Okay, we'll give you some money. You can go. Here you can change the world with this model. What I really like about it is that mentality. I really like sustainability. A self-feeding organism once you get this thing going. I like all of that. The however is the devil's in the details, right? That's what you guys have to figure out. When you are inviting people in, they do have to match your mindset. They have to match what your expectations are. They have to be driven, or this never will happen. Understand that the larger the idea somebody has, the more money they need, the more risk of failure inherently is in that model. So if you expect 97% of companies to be successful if you're going to, it depends on how much money you're giving out, what you're funding. The more money you give out, the greater chance of failure there is for individual companies or individual organisms within the collective whole. Think about that, because there's a ton of statistics with that too. if the person doesn't have, let's say that I want to apply, and I've got this great idea for changing the world. I'm going to be the person with the asphalt paving, and I know that that's going on. By the way, you do solar panels and asphalt now. There are people doing that as projects, so they collect energy as you drive over them, and that's pretty cool, right? But if I don't know how to make that happen, I've got this great idea. We all can come up with great ideas, but knowing how to take that idea and turn it into something that makes money, because you are talking about profit going back to the collective as well as the individual. People, and there's nothing wrong with people making money. You gotta live, you guys graduate, get a job, you gotta make money to live. So go do something like this. But if that individual doesn't have an entrepreneurial mindset, doesn't then, and also have, I call it the art and science of starting a company, the mindset to know that yeah, I'm ready to do this, I'm ready to form a team, and then the science of it, how do you make it happen? People have great ideas, great intentions, so how does this model help people with a good idea figure out how to translate that into a successful company?
I would say,
Shut up, David.
no, please keep it coming. I would say specifically for what you just mentioned, for someone who has a great idea and would like, a certain amount of money, let's say $5,000, before we just hand out and we're like, okay, that's a good idea, $5,000, maybe advising them or connecting them with other people in similar fields or in their own field that say, okay, well, this $5,000, it can be used towards workers. You need workers to do this, or it can be used for transportation of your materials or something like that. People who maybe not just have an idea, but also, they have a pragmatic way of why this will work as well.
What I'm saying though is not that. What I'm saying is if you come up with a great idea and you're really excited by that, most people don't know how to translate that idea into actionable steps. Okay, I'm going to be in DC at the end of this month with a bunch of universities talking about technology transfer and startup. And here we have people that have patents. They're brilliant people. I just reviewed yesterday 4 presentations that sucked. And these are from these people have been voted on, great ideas. Here's a group of people that have no idea how to make that into a business, how to get it out to the customer, whatever that means, how to get money coming in.
I mean, something that we had mentioned was the idea of volunteers and people who had an interest in knowing they wanted to do something for the world but maybe didn't even have that idea yet, or they had an idea and they wanted to be able to do it but didn't know how. That they would have access to these other cells and act as a volunteer and go work at them and go learn from them and go participate, and that would actually give them leeway in terms of them getting voted for their idea, some sort of their own credit or something by going and volunteering at these other places.
They could get experience then.
Exactly.
They're already in the system. They don't have their own cell formed yet, but they are within the system.
And as a conglomerate also works is that they are all belong to the same common goal, which is to keep this ball rolling. So there is interconnection between them. They can help each other. Let's say if you have this idea and you don't have the know-how, you can first start, we can say yes, your idea, you have a great idea, and perhaps if you don't have the know-how, go volunteer for one of these. And at the same, what Vicky is saying, at the same time that you're volunteering for them, you're going to be earning some sort of credit, some sort of tokens for how long you volunteer. Let's say you volunteer in the accounting department here or customer service here, because now you're going to be part of a family, a conglomerate that is helping you in many different ways. People that will be helping you, and I see as it grows, there could be even an entrepreneurial. You can be hired to teach people how to teach them how to be an entrepreneur, because I completely agree with you. Entrepreneurship is a science, and it's something that is not learned just by motivation.
So it's a lot like Habitat then. Habitat for Humanity model. You go work on your own home. Okay, so if you want a home, you apply for a home through them, and they'll give you a home, low interest rates and things. But for you to get that home, you have to work a certain amount of hours on your home or somebody else's home. So you have this understanding of what's going on, not so much construction, but what the value is of what this organization is doing for you. The collective, you could, somebody's got a cool idea, they don't really know how to get it off the ground. I mean, they could easily go to work for one of these other, or volunteer at one of these other organizations. What they're going to need is going to be a holistic view of how did they make that happen. Okay, because doing your own thing is a holistic thing. It's not necessarily becoming a good accountant or a good marketing person or a good writer. It's about having knowledge of all of that, but you don't have to be the expert, but understanding how it fits together. One big thing about entrepreneurship, doing your own thing, is that. So it's different than any other field, any other academic field for sure. Because we can teach you pottery, you know, we can teach you accounting, we can teach you a marketing plan, but you got to know all of that when you do your own thing or surround yourself with the team.
There's a class actually offered here. It's called Ideas to Action. And have you taken it?
No, I took it last semester.
You did? Okay, I haven't. I really want to. I've heard really good things about it. Do you think maybe the professor could tell us more about it? Because offering some kind of like education, I think the volunteering or apprenticing existing cells is a super good idea. But what if we also offered like education of ideas to action training kind of thing?
Totally. There's only one thing with that class is that the focus is social entrepreneurship, which is a new term now going on, which is the underlying motivation, as Muhammad Yanis was saying at the beginning. Is also is benefiting on is the selfless and the helping others create and helping the world and the fulfillment of that. So social entrepreneurship gears about that. But the beautiful thing about social entrepreneurship is that yes, you make a successful living, you do what you like to do, and you're helping the world, and it makes you a happier person because it's at many levels fulfillment. But it's not unifying. So that's why the key here is the unification of the self-entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, which, as you probably are aware, entrepreneurship is a growing thing as automatization is growing. There's more and more statistics show that I don't know how many people in the next 5 years are going to become entrepreneurs, and most of these people, you know,
It's my doctoral thesis.
Oh yeah,
I'll share it with you a little bit.
okay. And then so there is. So I don't know, you might also be familiar with the law of the diffusion of innovation. You know, we have that, the law of diffusion of innovation says that the first 2% of the people are the innovators, then you have the people that are the early adopters. And then you have a chasm right here. And this chasm is what really identifies between the early majority and the late majority, and then the ones, the laggards, you know, that's the rest of it. But this chasm right here, this whole system is about minimizing that chasm because right now, if you have
Say that again.
that the chasm,
It's about what? This whole idea is
it's about tipping that.
Crossing
it's about
the chasm,
really,
right?
It's about really narrowing that chasm because right now the chasm is like the first 2 years of entrepreneurship are the hardest ones. You know, you have to invest all that money. You basically are not even earning anything. So, but it's because you have to repay loans. You have to repay all these things, and there's a stress, and there's so many things. But if you get an injection of money, and you don't have to pay back a lot, after you know everything, the money that is recirculated back is after you take your own salary. That means that you're already doing what you like to do. You're going free, and then you're being helped by other people. That means that this chasm is being closed and closed, and it's allowing people to be more innovative. It's actually, I think, it's going to create so that the early majority is going to be growing. People are going to become more enthusiastic about trying different ideas. And as this grows, the point is that this will be cutting our reliance on the whole thing about money. Then money will not be, we'll not be thinking about money, we'll be thinking about energy. We're going to be thinking that energy cannot be, you know, if we recirculate it properly, we can access it and we can create, and as, let's say this cell that at the beginning got $10,000, they're doing well, they're doing things rightly, they can reapply again and say, I need another injection because I want to be more successful, and this is how I've been successful, and this is how I am changing the world. I need $50,000. And then it's on the benefit of the whole organism to re-inject back because he's already successful and he's already shown is creating more of their recirculation of capital, which is creating more and more. People are going to become more bold and become more willing to take risk because it's stress-free. If you don't make it, you don't make it, and then you opt out. And that's why it just makes things more easier. It's based on trust, like what they were saying at the beginning. That's a point.
Y'all ever looked into the idea of benefit corporations, B Corps? Y'all should look into those. They're really cool. It's the idea of you take the corporate business model, but you add a social impact to it. So there's like New Belgium, stuff like that, where they do make a profit, but they also have this impact that they're focused on, passionate about. Part of that, I think your 51% is kind of steep.
Because that would be, this is something I had talked to, or asked Sebastian about very day one. But the 51% is after the owner of the company is taking their salary. So that is 49% of his money that is left over that would be able to go back into their, sell their company, and then 51% is going back into Awareness Corp. So it's not really making it light any more difficult for the person that owns the business. They're already able to make a living salary, and hopefully a good salary.
And they pay their expenses, they can pay for their their materials, they can pay their workers, they can, all that stuff is like taken care of. It's only the, like the GDP, or whatever of the company that will be the 51% taken out.
Yeah. That cuts out of your revenue.
He said net profit.
Yeah.
Net profit.
Okay, which is the problem.
Yeah.
I'll let you know that in a minute here.
Yeah.
Okay, but so you take in $100, you pay off all your expenses, you're left with $10. They want 51% of that 10, which is not bad once you start thinking about it that way. The however for it is you can fake that number if you're not a real good person. Oh, I'm going to have $100 left over. Let me just go spend it on myself. I'll expense all of that off. Oh, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to have a corporate car. Now, whenever you deal with net profit, you get into people that all the time can, from an accounting perspective, make sure net profit equals zero. That's the goal of all accounting companies, is to help their clients show net profit zero so they don't have to pay taxes on anything. The other issue, if you have all honorable people and you deal with net profit, is exactly what I just mentioned, taxes. So where are you, if I have $10,000 worth of profit, net profit, I now have to pay taxes on those. Most people pay taxes as a flow through, so it's individual tax. The Trump stuff just changed it all, so you have to go look at that. But we ran into this when we did with my software company, because we gave out employee money. And because of all of those issues, and they come in, trust comes up, we decided we were going to do a percentage, 15% of revenue. And we just, because you can't mess up revenue. Revenue's revenue. Okay, so it makes it clean and easy. It won't be 51%. We took every dollar that came in, we gave 15 cents to employees. And they could see, it's easy then. You don't have to worry about after expenses and all that stuff. Something to think about. It's easier, and you don't have to trust. People are always self-motivated, and when money comes into play, you never know what happens to individuals. And as the money grows, I've seen human behavior take over, and people change. My company was easy when we weren't making money. Everybody was happy, everybody was fine. This is from an investor perspective, board members. When we started getting to multi-billion-dollar company, greed comes out.
More money, more problems.
I tell you, it really happened. It really did happen.
The benefit corporation idea, one of the things they really value is transparency, and that would help you all out with that topic. Because, yeah, every, they have to release an annual report talking about what they're doing. Yeah, part of that is their financials. Double check it.
Just a thought, what if, would there be a way to somehow implement like bartering into the system? Like trade of goods and services rather than just money? I don't know, just a thought.
One of the, yes, I mean, that's a good idea. I mean, that's a good point. So that, you know, as we have, this is the structure that we're, as things are created, you know, let's say, there's also vertical integrations and horizontal integrations in here. You know, there could be suppliers, you know, the farmer right here. This could be the transportation company. This could be, let's say, the restaurant. You know, if they all align in a certain way, there will be certain kinds of accounting. So the accounting should, you know, will be a little bit more clear because you could go, you know, you can compare it with all of the people because all of them will be in a certain way open in that sense. So bartering could be a possibility, you know, like let's say this person is not generating so much, you know, a certain thing, whatever can happen, the farmer, and you know, there will be some kind of trade. That's a possibility, definitely. Yeah.
Maybe you have a cell.
Trade.
Go ahead.
No, there's that's an old concept, you know, like to exchange, you know, because money is just a new concept, and we call it troika. So it's like, actually my mom lives like that, and it is possible. But I was thinking, just wanted to, because I have been collaborating with projects and also understand when money comes into the picture, you know, like things can be tricky. And I guess we're talking about money and redistribution of money and all that. But so since I talked with you guys, I have been thinking, but so what kind of projects? And I know that maybe that's a conversation after you have the model, or maybe not. Maybe it's from the beginning, you know, it's like, because I don't see, or as I understood, you know, like, I don't see this changing the world with more stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so there are a lot of people who wants to create stuff, but I don't know if that's going to change the world.
Well, in that sense, that's a really good point, I think.
Yeah.
Because yes, the point is not to generate more stuff.
You know,
I
like,
mean, there's an emphasis.
things,
Yes.
you know, like, and so, because there's so I don't know if you already talk about this, or you are going to talk about this, but I think that also is gonna have a consequence in the conversation about what kind of people we're talking about, you know, and you know, is anybody with any type of, you know, like, I don't know what type of projects.
Well, if you think, for example, right now the support on local economies, like support buying local and things like that, is an important thing. You know, if they're all actually creating stuff, but they're creating stuff mindfully, rightly, they are growing. People are growing more consciously instead of being big corporations that are growing massive amounts of stuff and just maximizing profit. To maximize for profit, they try to, you know, create huge amounts of production, means of production. So when we focus on, right now, most of these economies have been focused on local economies and, you know, support your local farmers, support your, so that's the emphasis of this, allowing people to, just the small people, to become part of a bigger thing themselves, so that they don't have to shoot for being big themselves. They can be happy just growing their little garden and selling or doing their stuff, you know. You can be as small as you can be and as simple as you can be and live out of trade, you know, either a farmer to farmer or something like that. But it could also go as far as you want to take it, you know, in the sense of, like, for example, at the beginning we played a video of this guy that had this idea about paving the road with recycled plastic. and he wanted to go big, and he had to go through 9,000 other competitors to win the first prize to get an injection of money. But in this case, if we are able to provide that, then we'll be able to allow those things, facilitate those changes to happen, and then the world. So we will be supporting small changes on a massive scale throughout the world. And since this model is a snowball effect and it's an exponential growth, the more people come in, the more recirculation of resources will happen. And there will be a vast, that pot will be a vast thing from where it will just allow people to access capital freely. And by those means, it will not only about be producing, we will be, hopefully, the idea is to help artists, support artists, support activists, because then at some point money won't be that, once that pot is big enough, it wouldn't matter that much where do we allocate it, as long as we're making people happy, as long as we're supporting what they like to do and something that is bringing good to the world. Like an artist might be just bringing good to the world by making it more beautiful. Well, let's do it. Let's support this artist. Let's give him. Actually, this guy Elon Musk, the one that runs Tesla and things like that, he's advocating for the global, worldwide minimum wage, which will allow people to, let go of that, tension of making the living, and then they will become more creative, and they will see ways in which they can, really enjoy this life and make the world a better place.
I would say also this model is towards empowering action rather than empowering just stuff being made, because a lot of people say like, oh yeah, if I create this new type of shoe, it'll make people's lives easier. But that's not an action that is world-changing, unifying, and I mean they might enjoy doing it, but if it's not unifying and if it isn't like economically sustainable for the world, and it doesn't make a serious impact, it's not really action-oriented at that point, and this is really empowering people that are in that mindset rather than just, oh, I have a good idea. A lot of people have good ideas, yeah.
You could use New Belgium as that example of a socially responsible or sustainable company. They make beer. Does that make a societal difference? I guess if you drink a bunch of it, it would temporarily. But that's not the point. The point is, what do they do with the money, and then how do they give back to society? So maybe they could make stuff like beer, but they're turning that into good.
Like Tom Shoes, for example.
Tom Shoes, great example of it. Although they created a lot of problems, because we did this in my marketing class. I showed the competitor Bombs, which is Skechers. They're horrible. Anyway, but so it brings. You could do a company that makes money, does good for others. There were some local examples, and I'm going to get this so wrong because I see this as I'm doing all my research, and it's in my brain, sort of. There's a person in North Carolina who hires the homeless. They form cafes. I think they're cafes, it may just be coffee shops, and everybody becomes an owner of that. So they're profitable, but as she now has people that she's taking off the street, they get a job, they in turn can go out and sort of do their own, start their own and help others. So here you have an example of sort of like a Starbucks that has societal good. So it is a key though, you have to decide. I think that initial prototype is critical. I think this model could do very well if you could show that you could start one of these and make it sustainable and make it profitable, but you could use that to go raise money, to get this going. Crowdfunding would, you put that video on of what you guys want to do, and then look, but we've done it. Everybody wants to see the prototype. Everybody wants to see the model be successful. And if you did that, you could kill it, and I don't mean from a profit perspective, but really this could be a really visionary changing way of looking at funding and looking at pushing out more to the masses societal change. It could.
So like the big next step for us is trying to figure out how to get that initial capital. And so the topic of the discussion has been creating a website where this concept is laid out very tastefully, all ends are tied, so it's not, we're not asking questions like, how does the owner of the business get paid enough,
Do you plan on doing this yourself first to show people that we can do a socially responsible company, or no? Is that not part of it?
I think that's definitely a great route to go.
Because if you're going to go raise money, we're going to have a great website, we're going to have this impassioned story, because I'm sure you guys can do that from what I've heard today. We want to do this, it's going to change the world, give us money. Well, here you go, here's $100. Now what are you going to do?
Well, let me start by saying it's 6:35. If anybody has other compromises, please, you're welcome to leave at any point. I don't want to keep you guys. I'm so grateful that there's so much attention to these endeavors and things like that. But then to reply to the question, it's really important that we have been discussing. We will create the student organization once we are able to provide this and make it so easily available that it's easily understood. Our difficulty so far is being able to convey it efficiently to people, because our limitation is communication. Like I mean, I'm more artist. I'm an artist. I'm a potter, painter, and we're not this. So the point is that. The first thing that will be generated after we accomplish what seeds of change, once we go to the details and we understand it fully and we develop it, as you're saying, we will create the first cell. And the first cell will be a for-profit website, as Conrad was saying. It will be like an Etsy website, but it will be geared towards social entrepreneurs. And in that same website, all the information about Awareness Corp will be there. So there's not such a thing that as an Etsy website. Etsy is like for craftsmanship, but it's not towards social entrepreneurship. But we will gear towards social entrepreneurship because especially here in Nashville, there is so much social entrepreneurship, and it's something that is growing. So if we are able to support those starting social entrepreneurship, at the same time we will be having a captive audience, and we will be having people that are already interested on it. They can put their products on that website, and we can derive a certain amount of profit. And that's going to we will be at the first for-profit, and once we have enough, then here comes Awareness Corp, and we will merge them, and it will be the first recirculation of capital. And then, perhaps once we have that, and we have proved that is fixable, and we, ourselves have made it happen, then we can run a crowdfunding in order to first have the first injection for the second cell, and then go on, and then from that on, I think the snowball will start rolling.
I think you're right. I think that can happen. By the way, we buy a lot of Etsy stuff. My wife and I. I always like to know where it comes from, because sometimes I don't look. Like, oh, that's cool, Poland, or that's cool, Vietnam. Oh, this watch band came from Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City, from Etsy. That's always a cool story. And I'm like, I wonder what that was like with that entrepreneur that started up that company, and now he's selling selling watch bands from Vietnam. I would encourage you guys, that's a great thought for doing this. Being the capitalist guy that I am, I would try to figure out when you do a messaging, how do you relate a messaging that can be okay for people that don't go, oh, wait a minute. Remember, we're the bubble here at UNCA, right? The UNCA bubble of the liberal arts school. How do you take that thought that you have, which is fantastic, because you guys are all deep thinkers, and how do you get this mass coming in, the momentum you need for people who aren't? Okay, crossing the chasm, yeah. And for me, crossing the chasm is always from a product perspective. Okay. That's where entrepreneurship makes it or breaks it. Yes. It's not necessarily not worrying about the money. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. If you ever want to talk about it, happy to do it. But it really is that message of figure out how you kind of get people, baby steps. Bring them along, little baby steps.
We need to make this digestible, really. Like that's the whole point of Seeds of Change is to make this like accessible and digestible and concise with our mission and like the core beliefs and everything like that, and use our assets to get this out there to the most people possible. And they can take it or leave it. We're not asking them, but we want them to understand it without having to have an hour-long discussion with videos and all this about it. If they can
more
watch a
you talk
3-minute
about it,
video.
the better you'll do. You've heard about the 30-second elevator pitch, maybe, maybe not. You need to be able to describe this in 30 seconds or less to somebody who goes, oh, cool, tell me more. You've got to be able to do that. And people generally freak when they start.
It's
You
about
never do that.
words,
Yeah.
storytelling.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why Juan is our faculty staff supporter, and Alice also has that poetic, and they're both poetic, and we want to include poetry. We want to be able to reach the heart, and reach through this be able to know that this is for the greater good of humanity, and to the greater good of bringing, as Muhammad Yunus was at the beginning, how he was solving the poverty, and he did solve it in a greater scale. Even 8 million people have been taken out of poverty to those systems. Is that we can do it. We can also help. We can come together and make it happen. But yes, we count with really good people.
If I can help some way, you let me know. I've got my cards here. If anybody wants one, grab one.
Thank you so much.
If not, throw them away. But I'm really good at this stuff. I'm good at entrepreneurship. I'm really good at helping people craft their message. Teams I've worked with at universities, every team I've ever worked with has won whatever they've entered, including here at UNCA. There was a group a couple of years ago, that's how I got involved with UNCA, nobody would take them on. There was no faculty wanting to help them, and I'm like, oh, I'll help you guys. And then they won the competition, they won the state competition, and then the university said, oh yeah, we'll take that back in. Go figure. Anyway, from an entrepreneurial perspective, if I can do anything for you, then I certainly let me know.
Are you offering a class? I would like to take a class with you.
Yeah, I'm not teaching here now. I'm not teaching anywhere at the moment. I'm just trying to bang out my doctoral degree. By the way, over 50% of people will be doing their own thing within 10 years.
I have heard that before.
Freelancers, consulting, or starting their own company.
Craftsmen.
Currently now, millennials, 47% of millennials that graduate do their own thing. And that number is expected, the whole workforce is expected to be 50% by 2027. And there's a statistic in my thesis.
So we're right on our niche is right along.
That's awesome.
Most of the comments I gave you are from knowing what I talk about intention. This is what you guys are speaking about, entrepreneurial intention. Yeah, I want to go out there and do it. And the chasm between that and actually doing it, called potential. We all want to do it, that's entrepreneurial potential, but how do you drive that potential to people actually being able to do it? And it's hard skills as well as the belief that they can. It's both. And you guys are perfectly positioned. Guess what? Liberal arts students are exactly like entrepreneurship students in personality and in skill sets. You're idea generators, you're passionate, you'll accept risk, you're nonconformists. It's an exact match. How do I know?
We
That's
have
part
the
of my thesis.
time also, that's the thing, we've got all the time in the world to dedicate to this.
Cool.
Julie, you were going to say something. Yeah, I know you're about to leave. I wanted to give you the opportunity to say something.
Well, there are a lot of things. But one thing is that some of my friends went to your presentation at the Leadership Summit, and they had some interesting opinions about it. They were talking to me about it, and it took me a while to be like, oh wait, I know who you're talking about, I know these people. But they were like, two hippies were talking about this far out idea, they want to take over the government, and so it really didn't come across to them the way that you intended it to, and so I think we should invite them or other people who
Were they in the early morning talk or the afternoon talk?
I don't know.
You nailed it on the head in terms of
But that would help
you can
to
invite
invite
some people to reach out to the capitalist.
See what I said? Right.
And that's the pitch that is going to be the most important.
You can blend that with a little less activism and a little less, well, the world's controlled, which it is by the 1% of people control all the wealth, and we're going to change that. We're going to smash capitalism. I mean, you've got a capitalistic model that allows everybody to succeed, and you've got a model that's socially responsible. So maybe that's the blending of it.
Well, that's what I think is so beautiful, and so that's what makes this possible, is that we are not going against the system, we are not going perpendicular, we're going parallel. Like, we're starting within, and it's an evolution. It's not like a complete, it's not destruction and then rebuilding. It's an evolution of this idea that got us here today. It's not like capitalism has not helped humanity in many ways. Like, I mean, look at this room that we're in right now. Look at this university. Look at this whole entire country. It's not that it hasn't been helpful. It's just that now we can look back and say, okay, this worked and this didn't, and we need to pick where we're going from here.
How long can we sustain it at the same rate that we are doing it?
I don't think that for me, those points are valid, but they're not the central message of what you're doing, and they'll turn people off. Okay? Yeah, I don't think you're running in parallel. I think this is a capitalistic idea, but it's one for societal good.
Yeah, and also one way I think you can really communicate to people is like a lot of college students have awesome ideas of what they want to do with their lives, but they think, that's a dream. Like, that's not possible. I'm going to become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever because I have to make money. And this is a way for them to not give up on what they truly want. And so I think that's a really good way to communicate to, Republicans, Democrats, religious, anyone, maybe. I don't know.
Thank
Sorry,
you
guys.
for
That's
coming.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, sure.
I guess it seems like we both end up. Do you want to say anything before we?
I was really just here to observe. This is my first time here, so I really love everything that I've heard so far. I think he has a lot of good input. It's a good point how bridging the gap between us liberal arts, like you said, the bubble out into the rest of the world by making it more digestible. Like he was just saying, that resonates with me. It makes a lot of sense to get it out there.
Thank you guys all so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all inviting me.
Anytime you guys want to come back, we meet the same time every week in this same room, and
When you think I can be of help to you, maybe you invite me back.
yes.
Because I'm really good at helping you craft messaging, and I'm really good at the entrepreneurial stuff to go, okay, where are the weaknesses in the model? What do you need to think about and address? The model is cool. There's a really cool idea here. And you're touching upon, most people are going to have to go out and do their own thing anyway. That's just what the whole workforce, they call it contract economy now. So you might as well go out and do something you're enjoying. You might as well do something that benefits somebody else. Why not? And you guys have the same mindset as entrepreneurship major students, so that's the cool thing. The question is,
Because we're not.
right, it doesn't matter, but I can tell your person, I've got the data, but the personalities are the same. The skills, idea generation are the same. Now it's getting you from that potential to actually doing it. That's where you need the help.
I would love to have all the time in the world you can allow us to be. We're pretty free and everything, and this is our core belief, and we're willing to sacrifice anything to make this happen. And,
Why don't you guys, since you see I call it conversation, do your thing, have some meetings, and then a couple of meetings from now invite you back.
Like when we're trying to, like when we kind of have an idea of like what we want to put on the website, and then you come in and you say, you don't need that, you don't need that, you might need that.
Yeah, I think for me, if I were you, I would be focusing on the overall model and crafting the messaging for the overall model. The website is the one cell you want to start. Okay, that requires its own plan. And I think you've got to think of those things. I don't even want to say, you've got to have the overall vision nailed down, what your messaging is for that vision, how you communicate it to others. And then that cell, the website, yeah, I think I could help you there too.
How in detail do you think we need to go before we reach that point of the website? Should we concentrate more on just the kind of the marketing side of it and like the general idea, or should we really try to make it so concrete?
Do you know the Ice House stuff I gave you?
Yeah.
You still have any of that?
Yeah.
This is exactly what you should be doing with the Ice House program. Take that sheet. You should be saying, here's our idea. You should be going to talk to people like it says in there, how many, 20, 30, 40 or something people, and walk it through that, I think it's 9 steps that are on there. And it's just the sheet, you're going to bullet these things. That's what you need. That'll get you that idea fleshed out what people want to buy. Generally the idea you start with is not the one you end up with. And if you go through, Conrad knows this thing called the Ice House model, you can look it up too. That'll give you a format for how to go think through both the overall vision as well as that individual idea, because it's the same process that you go through. I think you should do that. And I was thinking, man, I'd love to have had all you guys in that class. Because I would have talked to you about internal locus of control and how you grab control of your life and you go out and do this. And you've got to have that mindset to be able to do this. That's another day. If you can't find the materials, let me know, because I got them.
Well, yeah, I'm still a part of the program I do. It's never gone away.
Cool. Yeah, they said they were going to keep it out there. They told me they wouldn't, I don't have access to it anymore on Google.
Well, yeah.
So I would go out there and grab it. You could even show some of these boring videos.